संस्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। यथाग्नेर्दाहिका शक्ति रामकृष्णे स्थिता हि या सर्वविद्यास्वरूपां तां शारदां प्रणमाम्यहम्। नमः श्रीयतिराजाय विवेकानन्दसूरये सच्चित्सुखस्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे। With these salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother and Swami Vivekananda, I welcome you all to this comparatively very rare programs when we have a nun from Sarada Mutt, the proper women's arm of the Ramakrishna mission, coming here and addressing her. We of course get nuns from the convents of Vedanta Society in America, but from actually Sarada Mutt it is a rare occasion. The last I remember was Prana. Pravrajika Prana had given some talks here. Pravrajika Prabuddhaprana, she had come here a few years back, but at that time she did not consent to give a lecture. So at this time she agreed, and she is another distinction is there, very special, that she is the American woman who goes to India and becomes a nun in Sarada Mutt. There are not many like her. How many? No one else. So she is unique from that perspective. So, to give a few words of introduction, she was reading Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna at the age of 11 and got initiated by one of our illustrious Swami, who actually translated the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, means from Bengali Kathamrita to English, what is presently popular as the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. The translator Swami Nikhilananda, she got initiated from him when she was about 16 years old. She joined the Sarada Mutt officially in 1976 and got her monastic vows in 86. Also she has authored many nice books about the holy personages associated with the order, and today she agreed to speak to us on a very interesting topic, Sri Ramakrishna visiting or coming in contact with various scholars of that time. So without standing between you and her anymore, I request her to begin her address.
Oh, that's good, because I thought they may fall down. Oh, that's good. I know they won't stand up on this. Wait. Put it this way. Can it go that way? No. No, that's not good, because this is better. The angle is too much. Actually, last time I refused to speak because I'm not much of a speaker. I mostly do research. So I felt a bit guilty that I refused last time. and that's why I am speaking this time. When we go through the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, what strikes me is that Sri Ramakrishna met most of the famous, illustrious Pandits, scholars of his time. So many of them, if you read throughout the Gospel, he's having discussions with these great scholars, though he is unread. And they are all just amazed by his knowledge. And then I read carefully, and I found some interesting facts that I put together. So Sri Ramakrishna had the idea that God is displeased if we don't give honor to those who are deserving of honor. And so he showed so much honor to these Pandits. And according to the Bhagavad Gita, there's a power, a special power of God that is in one who is respected and who has some very special talent, like these Pandits. So Sri Ramakrishna sought them out. Many famous people of his time who were the leaders of the society: Devendranath Tagore, Keshav Chandra Sen, Bhagavan Das Babaji, then Shashadhar Tarka Chudamani, and Vijay Krishna Goswami, Vidyasagar, Padma Lochan, and many others, as Shivanath Shastri. That's not to name all. There were many more. And he didn't seek them out through curiosity. And he had nothing to find out from them to prove anything about himself. He knew who he was. So why did he meet all these Pandits? That is what I was interested in. So at his time, the Brahmo Samaj, to which these Pandits mostly were affiliated, the Brahmo Samaj was very prominent in the society, especially among the middle class in India. And the Brahmos they didn't believe in gods and goddesses and the symbols and signs of spirituality. They didn't do obeisance to the holy men. They believed in formless God with attributes. So they became very popular, and they stemmed the tide of the Christian missionary conversions that were going on in that time. So they had that function. And they also, they influenced the people who were at that time overwhelmed by oppressive priests who were preaching ritualism. And people were doing rituals, but a kind of empty rituals. They didn't really believe in them. They felt that they had to do them. That was their religion. But these Brahmos, they threw out the baby with the bathwater. And Sri Ramakrishna gave a new direction to the history of religion in his time. His influence on the Brahmo Samaj brought them back to the broad spectrum of Hindu tradition. And he also it took away their ego of scholarship and made them free of many of their prejudices. Now, among these leaders of the Brahmo Samaj was Devendranath Tagore. He was one of the founders of the sect, and he had a reputation at that time of also having a longing for God. So that's why Sri Ramakrishna was particularly interested to meet him. And he told his guardian, you might say, Mathurnath Vishwas, who was the proprietor of the Kali temple where he was staying, to make an appointment with Devendranath for him. And Devendranath was a very a prominent person, so Mathurnath hesitated. He said, how can I go uninvited to this gentleman and make an appointment? He hardly knows me. But Sri Ramakrishna was insisting, no, I must meet him. He repeats the name of God. I want to see him. And so he pressed Mathur, and then Mathur said, well, you see, I went to the same school as he did, so maybe he remembers me. I'll go and ask him if he will meet you. So he went, and he took along Sri Ramakrishna, and first Mathur entered the parlor of Devendranath and told him, Sri Ramakrishna is here to see you, and he's always mad after God. He's waiting just outside. Please meet him. Then Devendranath came and met his very peculiarly dressed guest. Sri Ramakrishna was not, he didn't bother to dress up to meet Devendranath. He was not wearing a shirt and wearing a coarse dhoti, and Devendra was in that society of gentlemen, so he didn't think much of Sri Ramakrishna at first. But after conversing with him, he became a bit interested in him. And Sri Ramakrishna sort of tested Devendra also. He wanted to see, in the course of conversation, he wanted to see his chest. He made him roll up his shirt to see his chest and what spiritual marks there could be on his body. And he often did that to people. So he saw, oh, Devendra's chest is reddish, so he must be, he has some emotion, and so anyway, he was slightly impressed by him, but then he after some conversation, he started laughing aloud. He started laughing aloud. And afterwards, Mathur asked Sri Ramakrishna, why did you start laughing like that in front of him? Sri Ramakrishna said, oh, I saw he's a scholar who is so vain. He thinks that he's very important, and he's a jnani, and he's rich. And so if I see that a scholar has no discrimination and renunciation, I think that he's like a vulture that flies very high in the sky, but all the time his eyes are on the carrion on the ground. So that's why I was laughing. Then just before he left, Devendra invited Sri Ramakrishna to come to the forthcoming Brahmo Samaj celebration. They had a big celebration coming up. So he said, you're welcome to come, but don't dress like this. You have to wear a shirt and put a wrapper around your body, properly wear a chadar. Sri Ramakrishna said, I can't come then. I can't be a babu. I can't be a gentleman. So that's how he left Devendranath. But more important, more influential than Devendranath in the Brahmo Samaj was Keshav Chandra Sen. And Keshav Chandra Sen played a very big part in the society of his time. He was a very attractive orator and spoke in very poetic terms. One day, Sri Ramakrishna went to hear his talk, and that time, Keshav Chandra Sen was saying, the lotus, lotus of Brahman, full-blown lotus is floating on the ocean of Brahman, then he was interrupted by Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna said, nonsense, Keshav. You know very well that lotuses don't float in the ocean; they float in the muddy waters of the pond. And so he criticized him. Another time he heard Keshav saying, one should dive deep in the ocean of Brahman. And Sri Ramakrishna stopped him. He said, why do you talk like that? You see, if you dive so deep and not come up, then what about these ladies, the wives and other women in the family who are behind the curtain? What about them? You better not dive so deep. So he criticized him and chided him, but actually he really loved Keshav Chandra Sen, and he changed his ways also after meeting Sri Ramakrishna, because in the influence of Sri Ramakrishna, he again accepted gods and goddesses, and he at the end we see him dancing and with Sri Ramakrishna and listening to the kirtan, the singing of devotional songs. So then, after Keshav Chandra Sen, we see there are many other scholars that I wanted to tell you, especially about this Pandit Padmalochan. You find references to him in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Now, Sri Ramakrishna heard about the great reputation of Padmalochan. Actually, his full title is Padmalochan Tarkalankar Bhattacharya. He was the principal court Pandit of the Maharaja of Bardhaman. And that was a very, very prestigious position at that time. Of all Pandits, he was legendary. And so Sri Ramakrishna wanted to meet him when he heard about him. Then he asked Mathu Babu, again, I want to go to Bardhaman to meet that Pandit, so please arrange for my journey. And but before the Pandit could make arrangements to go to see the Pandit, he was informed by his Divine Mother Kali that the Pandit was due to come to Calcutta within the next 10 days. So Sri Ramakrishna waited for him in Calcutta. And then after 10 days or so, he sent his nephew Hriday to meet the Pandit and find out if he can get an appointment with him. And Hriday found out from the local people when the Pandit had come, and he went with Sri Ramakrishna to see that Pandit. Well, at that time, Padmalochan was old, and he was also not well, and he was actually going to Dakshineshwar, to a garden house, to recuperate from his illness. Excuse me. So he was staying very near, actually, very near the Kali temple. And Sri Ramakrishna went one day by boat with his nephew Hriday to see that Pandit in the garden house. And then when he went by boat, he went straight to the Pandit's room, and I think actually without appointment again, and the Pandit was startled to see Sri Ramakrishna. As soon as he saw him, he just somehow scrambled out of his bed, and his students were there. His students were all around in the room. They also stood up, and then Sri Ramakrishna was standing there and asking, are you Padmalochan? Yes, I'm Padmalochan. Are you really a great Pandit? Sri Ramakrishna asked him. Oh, well, if you say I'm a Pandit, then I must be one. Then Sri Ramakrishna was ecstatic, standing there with his face glowing, and the Pandit was just amazed to see such a person. And Sri Ramakrishna started singing. He started singing the song, Ke Jane Kali Kamon. Who is there who can know who Kali, Mother Kali, the Divine Mother, is? Even the 6 darshanas, the 6 systems of philosophy, can't describe her. And the song goes on that she is in the hearts of all the devotees and so on. A very philosophical song. And after singing that song and a few other songs about Mother Kali, the Sri Ramakrishna went in samadhi, as he used to do. He went into this very high spiritual mood, his face glowing and standing there still as a statue. The Pandit was amazed. He understood. He was also psychic. He also had some powers. And he was watching Sri Ramakrishna with tears pouring out of his eyes, just pouring down. And he said to Hriday, see how I'm crying. I never cry. I never weep like this. Oh, what is happening to me? I have never seen such a sight. There is the form of a man with Mother Kali inside. He saw the Divine Mother inside the frame of the figure of Sri Ramakrishna. And the Divine Mother happened to be his chosen ideal also. So he was just dumbfounded. And he exclaimed to all his students, you see, standing before you, the demonstration of all the scriptures that I have been teaching you. You see before you. I could never explain to you what this state is, but now you are seeing it. And he went on like that, and Sri Ramakrishna came down from his samadhi and started conversing with the Pandit. And the Pandit was again telling his student, he is without any learning, he has understood 1,000,000 times more of the scriptures than I could understand by studying a room full of them. And then he was going on praising Sri Ramakrishna, and Hridai said to the Pandit, well, some people have said that he is an incarnation of God. What do you think? Could he be? What is your opinion? And Padmalochan said, an incarnation of God? No. He is that from whom incarnations come. He could make 100,000 fools into Pandits like me. And then he again wanted to talk with Sri Ramakrishna, and they had many meetings in that house. That house, we know very well. That house is not far from the Kali temple, about 1 mile from the Kali temple. And right now, it is the place of the headquarters of Sri Sarada Mutt, the women's mutt. And how did it happen? The trustees of the Ramakrishna Mutt were supposed to help to form a women's mutt. And that was what Swami Vivekananda ordained, that there must be also a women's mutt on the opposite side of the Ganga from Belur Mutt, and the trustees of the Ramakrishna Mutt, they will help them to start just at the beginning, and then when they are able to manage on their own, they will be completely separate. Well, they were during Holy Mother's centenary, they were searching for a place along the Ganga, and on the opposite side from Belur Mutt. And it just happened that this very house where Padmalochan was staying, that was the biggest mansion in the proximity of the Kali temple. And it had a large estate around it of gardens, and steps to the Ganga. The ghat had marble platforms on both sides, and even the steps of the house on both sides were all marble. It was a very rich and big house. And over the gate of the Ganga, over that the ghat, the steps, there's a large and very high arch, and it's in wrought iron. That arch is made in wrought iron, and on it is inscribed in wrought iron letters, Suraduni Kanam. Suraduni Kanan. Suraduni is the name of the Ganga, and Kanan is a heavenly garden. So this is a heavenly garden on the bank of the Ganga. And now we live there. We are in Sarada Mutt. That had just happened. These trustees who found that place, they had no idea that Sri Ramakrishna had been there many times, because Sri Ramakrishna even said that the discussions that he had with Padmalochan, he was so delighted with them. He had never had such wonderful, satisfying conversations with any other Pandit. And so he very often came to see him. Padmalochan was not well. He could not visit the Kali temple. Maybe he did once or twice, but he would send his son very often to Sri Ramakrishna and tell him that his father wanted to come and see him. And Padmalochan also, he wanted to sound out some of his ideas for discussing in debate with other Pandits. So he would tell Sri Ramakrishna all his ideas and get his opinion and approval of these points in the scriptures, and Sri Ramakrishna would discuss these with him. Well, Padmalochan also, he had some psychic powers because of his tantric practices, and he was able to defeat anyone in debate. He was never, nobody could defeat him because of his special secret power. And this is how his power worked. He would pace back and forth, holding a kamandalu and a gamcha, a very ordinary towel, and he would keep that towel on his shoulder and pace back and forth for a while before a debate with that kamandalu, that water pot. And he'd take some of the water from the water pot and put it in his mouth and sprinkle that water on his head, and pacing back and forth before the debate. And somehow this gave him a power that he would not, nobody could defeat him. He would be invincible. Well, before one debate that he was about to have, he found his gamcha, that towel, and the kamandalu, water pot, it was missing. Then he knew Sri Ramakrishna must have taken it. He must have found out what my secret was. Even the Pandit's wife didn't know his secret. Nobody knew. Somehow, the Divine Mother must have told Sri Ramakrishna. So he took it away. Why? Because he wanted to take away the Pandit's pride. He wanted to take away his ego. And the Pandit, as soon as he realized that Sri Ramakrishna had done that, instead of being angry, as we would imagine, he started to laugh and rejoice. He was very happy. He started to sing praises of Sri Ramakrishna because he understood that Sri Ramakrishna was making him free. He was taking away his pride so that he would be free. And this is what Sri Ramakrishna does for all, for everyone. Sri Ramakrishna seated in the hearts of all his devotees, of everyone. He is making them free. That is what the avatar does. The avatar is the kapal mochan. He removes the doom. He removes the karma of the devotees and makes them free. Only the avatar can do that. Even the guru can't do that. Only the avatar can actually change the karma of the devotees. So we find that in the case of many other Pandits, this is what Sri Ramakrishna was doing. And when I realized that by reading through the Gospel and how he was freeing all the Pandits, asking them questions, and what do you think of me, and giving them advice. It was only to make them free of their egos, of being Pandits, of being scholars, and so that they would be free. So I can tell about many more Pandits that Sri Ramakrishna knew. That's, Vijay Krishna Goswami was one. Let me see. Vijay Krishna Goswami, you find many conversations of his with Sri Ramakrishna in the Gospel. Sometimes he's only referred to as Vijay. And Vijay he also had some powers. He he once saw Sri Ramakrishna in Dhaka. He said, I saw you in Dhaka. And Sri Ramakrishna, of course, he was not in Dhaka. That's in Bangladesh. So this Vijay had some psychic powers. And I was very much interested to know that one disciple of Vijay Krishna Goswami had, he was before very much acquainted with Sister Nivedita. When I did some research recently on Sister Nivedita, I found that she had written many articles for the Dawn magazine. Excuse me. Now, the Dawn magazine was a nationalistic journal, and I saw that she wrote at least half the articles of that journal. So I was collecting that time all articles of Sister Nivedita, articles and lectures that had not been in her complete works that were published, or in Shankari Prasad Basu's book, Lokmata Nivedita, about Sister Nivedita. So I was surprised to know that the collaborator with Nivedita on this journal, you have to excuse me, I have very bad throat, so I have to stop for a minute. So this this gentleman's name. Oh, sorry, just waiting. It's an allergy I have. His name was Satish Chandra Mukhopadhyay. And he also started a Sanskrit school called the Dawn Society. Sanskrit, and not only did they teach Sanskrit, but other subjects, mainly based on Swami Vivekananda's ideas. So before he started that magazine, that journal, he thought, years before, I suppose, he wanted to get initiation from a guru. But he thought, well, he would not search for the guru. The guru should find him. He should not seek the guru. As many people, they are looking for a guru here and there and so on. It was not like that. He thought, no, if I'm to have a guru, he will come to me. He will choose me. And it so happened that one day, someone came to him and told him, tomorrow, Vijay Krishna Goswami will initiate you. So you take your bath early in the morning and go to his house. This Satish Chandra was dumbfounded. what should he do? He couldn't sleep that night. Should I go? This is very peculiar. All of a sudden, he's called me. But no, he was somehow, almost unconsciously, he went and took his bath the next morning and went to his guru's house, his future guru's house. And when he reached there, some monk there told him that Vijay Krishna Goswami is waiting for you upstairs. So go ahead upstairs and he will initiate you. So Satish Chandra went and he found that Vijay Krishna was sitting in his shrine, and there was a seat spread next to him, and this Satish Chandra was to sit on it and take initiation. So he sat there, and the guru then gave him the mantra. As soon as he heard the mantra, he went into a high spiritual state, just ecstatic, and became unconscious. When he opened his eyes again, the guru was sitting next to him, smiling, and this Satish Chandra was disturbed. He said, "Why did you bring me down from that state? It was so heavenly. I was enjoying such bliss. I didn't want to come down from that." The guru said, "Oh, this is only a taste. You'll be in that state permanently later. But now you have some work to do." So then, after some time, he started that Dawn Society and that magazine. But after some years, and he was working with Sister Nivedita. That's how I was so much interested in him. And promoting Swamiji's ideas also, nationalistic ideas, to the young people. And but after some years, Vijay Krishna again got in touch with him and told him, "No, now you go to Varanasi, you go to Kashi, and leave everything. You leave everything here. You just rent a house, and don't tell anything to your students. You don't take any help from them, nothing, and cook your own food and live like that." So as soon as he went to Varanasi, he realized that he had recognized many places there. He recognized Annapurna Temple and so many places. He felt as though he had been there many years before, perhaps many lives he spent as a sannyasin there. And he didn't recognize Vishwanath Temple because the Muslims had destroyed that temple and it was changed, so he didn't recognize that. But other places he knew that he had been there before, many times. But because he had the ego, the pride of being a sannyasin, he couldn't realize, he couldn't get liberation. So at this time, he lived a completely self-effacing life, and for I think another 40 years, and passed away in Varanasi, apparently liberated. But it's interesting to know that this was such that his guru had so much power that he was able to effect that in the disciple. And that Vijay Krishna Goswami was also so well acquainted with Sri Ramakrishna. And Sri Ramakrishna would advise him at that earlier, of course, it was much earlier that he knew Sri Ramakrishna. But as he would, at that time, I remember reading in the Gospel that Sri Ramakrishna advised him to keep company with holy men. And he because he had duties in the Brahmo Samaj, he would say, oh, but I have my duties, I don't have time to go to see holy men. Sri Ramakrishna gave him all kinds of advice you read in the Gospel. But just to get the picture of all these great pundits who had so much power, who are great gurus, and who also influenced the society so much, they were all motivated, all so much affected by Sri Ramakrishna that he really changed the history of the religion in the country. Because Brahmo Samaj and all these pundits had tremendous influence on the society. And so it was actually through them that Sri Ramakrishna had that influence. And that's why he wanted to meet, he was so keen to meet all these pundits. Well, this was what I discovered by reading the Gospel and thinking about why did Sri Ramakrishna want to meet all these famous pundits. So I feel very much like that. That was my conclusion, that Sri Ramakrishna still, he is liberating people, sitting in the hearts of the devotees and making them free, untying all the knots of ego, of narrowness, and making everyone free from whatever prejudices and narrowness that they have. So I pray that all may understand this and realize that Sri Ramakrishna is working through everyone, and as the avatar, he is making all free of all their bondage. That's all really what I wanted to tell you. Yeah, maybe people have questions.
Any questions?
Yeah, somebody has questions.
I know, I'm going.
Pranam. Does the question have to be from what you taught, or can it be from Vedanta as well?
I suppose it can be whatever.
Okay, so I have one small confusion. So when the question starts, who am I, and the answer comes that I am that one consciousness. So my question is, if I am the Atman, which is in fact the light that is shining through us, however, the one consciousness is that sun, which is the real source of that light. So the question is, if I am the Atman, then how can I be the sun? And if I am the sun, then I cannot be the Atman. So who am I? Am I the Atman or the one consciousness?
The Atman is Brahman. Same. Isn't it so?
But there is a difference between a light shining and the source of the light.
There's no difference. The light is shining through you as well.
Yes, but I am not the source.
Why? How do you know you're not the source?
Yes, I don't know that.
You see, this is the ego. You think that you're an individual and the source is something else. But Sri Ramakrishna explained it. It's like putting a stick on the water. It seems to be dividing the water, but it's not. Water is one. But because of the stick of the ego, we think we are separate. So we pray. Atma me suddhantam jyotiraham viraja vipapma bhuyasam swaha. Antaratma me suddhantam jyotiraham viraja vipapma bhuyasam swaha. Paramatma me suddhantam jyotiraham viraja vipapma bhuyasam swaha.
There's a web question.
The light, well, may my body become pure. May I realize my the light that is shining through my body, and may my mind become pure. May I know that light is shining through my mind, and may my Atman, my soul become pure. May I know that light that is my Atman. I don't know how to translate like that, but it's more or less.
There's a web question. Do you want to ask one question?
You mentioned that about Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, but you did not elaborate on that. Especially, I am intrigued to know how do you look upon that statement that Sri Ramakrishna says that here is a man who has a great treasure, gold in him, in his heart,
Yes.
but he doesn't know about it. So can you elaborate a little more on that?
I don't know if I can. Perhaps I can only guess, because I don't know what Sri Ramakrishna had in mind. But it was because perhaps he didn't realize that he what power, what divine nature is within him, and instead he was proud of his Pandit, his scholarship. I don't know if that what exactly we're looking for. Is there something else? Oh, I don't know any further answer than that.
There's a web question.
What is that he would realize that he has gold inside, that the Atman is his self. What I don't know.
There are people listening online and someone has a question.
Question from up there. So the question will be read out to you, and then you will give answer to
Let me
that.
see if I can.
Yeah, this question from Rupak Sharkar. Mataji, there's a question from Rupak Sharkar.
Yes.
He's listening on the web. Mataji, do you have any plan to publish a book, Sri Ramakrishna and the Scholars?
I didn't plan to write a book about it. Could write an article about it, maybe. A book. You're suggesting that I write a book about it, then one would have to do research about each of these scholars. That's what you're thinking, maybe. But I'm not so much interested to know about each of these scholars' lives. I found out what I wanted to know from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, as far as they're concerned.
In Lila Prasanga, there is the mention and some good description about Narayan Shastri. So, but it is only mentioned that after that he gave up everything and became a monk and
Narayan Shastri.
Narayan Shastri.
There's so many Pandits mentioned in the Gospel.
Yes.
Shivanath Shastri and many. Shashadhar.
Yes.
Vidya Sagar. So many. We could write about each one of them. But
Yeah, that will become a nice book.
But it only concerns me to find out about their relationship with Sri Ramakrishna.
Yes.
Otherwise, I'm not interested in the lives of these Pandits. That would be too much of a digression for me.
Okay then. On behalf of Vedanta Society and personally also, I am giving my thanks to revered Mataji, Prabuddhaprana Mataji, for this illuminating discourse. The topic, very unique topic, Sri Ramakrishna and the scholars that he came in contact with, and how the exchange became an illuminating factor in the lives of those scholars. So, many thanks Mataji for this discourse, and hopefully it was not too bothersome for you.
This
It
happens
is,
all the time. My throat gives out.
yes, it happens sometimes, yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, then my thanks to you all also for coming here to listen to the talk. Okay, then Mataji will be standing here. Yes, we will have the closing prayer. I will just read. May the Divine, who is Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Great Spirit of the Native Americans, Ahura Mazda of the Zoroastrians, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light. It is not moving? From darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the all-loving being manifest himself unto us and grant us abiding understanding and all-consuming divine love. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.